Hey everyone, Caleb here, a PGY1 internal medicine resident at Prisma Upstate. Today we're going to try to talk about when alcohol meets NASH. But let's be honest, if I wasn't in medicine, I'd have no idea what we're talking about. So let's see if we can make it easy to understand. This is my poster, but let's not try to read all of it yet. Let's try to break it down, and then you can read it later to try to understand it better. So what are the things we need to understand how alcohol affects NASH? Well, we need to understand what the liver does, what a fatty liver is and why it occurs, what NASH even is, and how alcohol affects the fatty liver. So what does the liver do then? Well, the liver does a lot of things, but I think most importantly for us, what it does is it breaks down things like fat, sugars, and proteins into forms that are easy for the body to use. And then it also cleans the blood and removes toxins, especially things like alcohol. So then, how does the liver get fatty? Well, when you eat a lot of fat, more fat gets into the blood, and the liver has to try to deal with all that fat. But either the liver is not very good at dealing with it, or there's just too much fat to be dealt with. And so the liver does the only thing it can do, which is store the fat in itself for later, so that maybe it can try to break it down when it has the time and energy. But why is that such a bad thing? Well, fat's actually pretty dangerous if you didn't know. It actually damages a lot of things if it sits around too long. And so if it's not stored in our fat cells, the adipose tissue, and it's stored in the liver instead, it actually damages the liver over time. And when that damage builds up, the liver sends out a help signal to the rest of the body. And the body deals with this fat the only way it can, by sending white blood cells or the immune system. When the white blood cells get there, all they know how to do is destroy the fat and replace it with scar tissue. And so even though the fat is broken down, it's not done well, and the liver is actually damaged more, and it actually gets scarred or killed. So over time, as this fat is dealt with by white blood cells, the liver is actually getting scarred and becoming dead, which means it can't deal with the fats, the alcohols, the sugars, anything really. And so what then is alcohol or non-alcoholic steatohepatitis? Well, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis is not because of alcohol, but fat that's building up in the liver and causing inflammation and scarring. And why does that happen? Well, like we said, sometimes the liver is just not good at dealing with fat. You can blame your genetics for that. And then sometimes too much fat is in the blood, and your liver just can't deal with it all. And that you can blame your diet and your weight. But then why is alcohol bad in NASH? Well, alcohol is bad in and of itself, but the liver is the only thing that deals with alcohol when it's in the body. And so when alcohol and fat are next to each other, the liver actually chooses to deal with the alcohol first. And so it ends up storing even more fat for later, which, as we know, causes more inflammation and more scarring. And so when you avoid alcohol or cut it out completely, the liver can actually focus on trying to deal with the fat. And when you pair that with reducing fat in your diet or losing weight, the liver actually can deal with some of the fat that's there and not have as much inflammation and not scar as much. And so the big picture is the fat in the liver is not always a bad thing, but if too much of it is there because you eat too much or your liver's bad at dealing with the fat, then actually it damages the liver and it causes scarring or NASH. When alcohol is brought into the picture, it actually makes your NASH worse. And over time, it can actually cause liver failure or cirrhosis. So that's why you shouldn't drink alcohol if you have fatty liver disease or if you have NASH.